weapon capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries. Now, if you don't think that Russia or Saudi Arabia would pay billions for that, and maybe did, well, let me read the whole thing, actually. He kept boxes containing papers about defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to nuclear attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. This is breathtaking stuff. Remember all the foreign spies? There was a Chinese spy, that woman that was sucking up to Donald Trump and following him around for several days there at Mar-a-Lago. And then there was several Russian spies as well, who always attractive women, because Donald Trump just loves to have them around him. The indictment goes on to say Trump, quote, caused scores of boxes, many of which contain classified documents, to be transported to the Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he maintained his residence. Nothing that he had was, he was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents. He stored his boxes containing classified documents in various locations at the Mar-a-Lago club, including in a ballroom, a bathroom, a shower, his office space, his bedroom, and a storage room. I don't see how it gets worse than this. I mean, you know, his valet apparently helped him in all this, and he has been indicted now as well as part of this conspiracy. The indictment quotes from a text exchange between two unnamed Trump employees, quote, "There is still little room in the shower where his other stuff is." I mean, they were talking about where to stash his stuff. Walt Nauta, the valet who has also been arrested, or indicted, quote, moved 64 boxes from the storage room and brought them to Trump's residence. It's starting to get redundant here. But Joe Biden was asked about this. He said, "I have no comment." Yeah. This looks like really serious, dangerous, deadly to the United States stuff that Donald Trump was leaving out in the open, where spies from China, Russia, and I believe he sold them to Saudi Arabia. I can't figure out any other reason why they would give Jared Kushner $2 billion and give Donald Trump hundreds of millions of dollars, which is what it appears he's gotten for the sponsoring the Live Golf tournaments. So there's that. A couple of other stories I wanted to share with you. We have a Geeky Science. Never forget, this is a great piece by Haricot Blue over on Daily Kos. Never forget, they knew in 1959, Edward Teller, the father of the atomic bomb, wrote, and this was a symposium of petroleum industry executives that he was speaking to. He said, when you burn conventional fuel, you create carbon dioxide. Its presence in the atmosphere causes a greenhouse effect. If the world keeps using fossil fuels, the ice caps will begin to melt, raising sea level. All the coastal cities will be covered. 1949, 80 years ago. They knew in 1968 when a report commissioned by the American Petroleum Institute concluded, quote, significant temperature changes are almost certain to occur by the year 2000, and these could bring about climactic changes. There seems to be no doubt that the potential damage to our environment could be severe. Pollutants, which we generally ignore because they have little local effects, CO2 and submicron particles, may be the cause of serious worldwide environmental changes. You know, and the article just goes on and on and on, you know, quoting from study after study after study. You can find that over at dailykos.com. And then finally, this is from Aaron Reed's brilliant Substack newsletter. If you are a member of Substack, well, you don't even have to be, actually. Aaron, E-R-I-N, aaroninthemorning.com is the website for this. And a judge in Florida has blocked Ron DeSantis's horrible anti-trans legislation. And I just have to share with you a couple of quotes. His name is Judge Hinkle. A couple of the quotes here. The defendants say, in effect, that the organizations were dominated by individuals who pursued good politics, not good medicine. In other words, the argument that DeSantis is making is that doctors who are providing care to people undergoing transition are doing it for political purposes rather, and still is substantial benefit at transgender individuals. This is from the court ruling. A Florida legislator's remarkable reference to transgender witnesses as a committee hearing as mutants and demons is one of his examples. He said that is, as noted above, the elephant in the room. The Republicans also, in pushing for this law, said that a lot of people who make a transition, a gender transition, regret it afterwards. And that almost never happens. The judge, in fact, called that out. He said, regret is rare. Indeed, the defendants have offered no evidence of any Florida resident who regrets being treated with GnRH antagonists or cross-sex hormones. None. They couldn't find a single person in Florida who regretted going through a transition. He blew up their parental rights argument. He said parents should have if they want to support their child in going through a transition, they should be able to do so. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it. To fund this network all the way, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election, which is going to make it really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. $50 becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. Your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag, $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug, $120 gift, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, or my book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket, and with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's the general on there.
I'll put it on, yes, sir. Ready?
Hello?
General Eisenhower, Mr. President.
General, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, a public one, the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from Turkey. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll be find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba is concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yes.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off by far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our word, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very, I think, conciliatory move he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is that's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests. If they engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive acts and so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month, we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway. So that I think this is important for the time being, because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that, as we all know, they just probe, and their word's unreliable, so we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side, and somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And, you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Thursday. A lot going on. The toxic GOP plan to ensure their ownership of women's bodies. This was kicked off yesterday by an announcement from the Supreme Court. I'll get to that with you in just a moment. Also, will Jack Smith's Supreme Court move help or hurt Trump? We've got people on both sides of that argument making suggestions that this is a high wire act here, going to the Supreme Court and saying, is Trump immune? I'll tell you all about that. And also, was the Biden impeachment an ordered hit on Joe Biden? And if so, who could be behind that? Other than Hakeem Jeffries just called him a mob boss. I'll tell you about that in this first. At the top of our second hour of the program, our only guest of the day, Phil Ittner, is going to drop by with an update from Ukraine. He's typically based live in Kyiv. I believe he's in the United States this week. Also, Trump is putting together his blueprint to Christianize our government. Well, would Trump end the separation of church and state? You think? Also, why is CNN legitimizing Ramaswamy's dangerous lies? An interesting question being asked by CNN's own media watchdog. I'll tell you about that in the second hour. In the third hour of our program, how New York State could change Congress using the Republican Party's own tricks. And a geeky science, why hunters in a farmer's world? A new article that went up over at hunterandafarmersworld.com. So I'll tell you about that in the third hour of the program. But to start out, my op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com is titled "The Toxic GOP Plan to Ensure Their Ownership of Women's Bodies." I mean, the Kate Cox saga in Texas is, making it fairly clear to everybody in the country that Republican opposition to abortion, and I put that in scare quotes, is not really just opposition to abortion. It's a desire to control every aspect of a woman's life, that particularly any aspect that has to do with sex or reproduction. And, so yesterday the Supreme Court said, okay, we're going to hear these arguments in this mifepristone case. Now, just to backfill here, just to give you the backstory, a group of right-wing fundamentalist religious doctors incorporated in Amarillo, Texas, specifically so that they could go before Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, a Bible-thumping right-winger, Trump appointee, and argue that someday one of these doctors may end up with a patient who had an abortion that caused some sort of long-lasting consequence to them, and now this doctor is going to have to treat them, and it will cause them mental anguish. None of them have ever treated anybody who's had a problem with an abortion. There should be no standing here at all. This group has no legitimate complaint. They're anticipating a future complaint, which you can't do. But the judge took the case, and then the Fifth Circuit took the case very seriously and said yes. Now, what Judge Kacsmaryk said was the mifepristone. He said two things. One, that the FDA didn't have the authority to make it legally available in the way that they did. That part of the argument the Supreme Court was largely struck down by the Fifth Circuit, and the Supreme Court is waiving, they're not going to get into that. That's kind of a Chevron deference argument that actually the Supreme Court's got another case this year that they're going to use to take that one up, and we're all holding our breath on that one. But the second argument that Matthew Kacsmaryk made, or that was made to him and with which he agreed, this Amarillo, Texas judge, was that in 1873, when Congress passed the Comstock Act, that law outlaws the distribution through the mail, and it was updated in 1997 to include FedEx and UPS and any other common carrier. In other words, the shipping via any means of two categories of stuff. Number one, any product that could be used to produce an abortion. And number two, any product that could be used for lewd purposes. Now, lewd purposes was interpreted by the Supreme Court itself, as well as the other courts, right up until relatively recently, as including birth control devices. This only ended in 1965 with the Griswold case, Griswold versus Connecticut, before the U.S. Supreme Court, in which the Supreme Court in '65 legalized birth control for married couples. it was still considered lewd and illegal to send birth control through the mail by the Comstock Act, right up until 1972, when the Supreme Court, the year before Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court ruled that even unmarried people should have legal access to birth control. So that's, I mean, that's how relatively recent this stuff is. So anyhow, Matthew Kaczmarek, this judge says, you know, the Comstock Act says you can't ship mifepristone through the mail. It's for lewd purposes and it's for abortion. And you know, the logical extension would be you can't ship, if you can't ship it through the mail, then hospitals can't receive it, doctors' offices can't receive it, pharmacies can't receive it, and you sure as heck can't receive it. Now, there are a number of groups, including the wife of Josh Hawley, who argued this before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, who are even going so far as to suggest, imply, or even sometimes outright say that not only should we ban mifepristone from being mailed, but we should ban all birth control devices from being mailed. This is like the ultimate Catholic argument. And although it's not unique to the Catholic Church any longer, but you know, it's been their argument for, you know, 50 years. So the question is, will the Supreme Court uphold the Comstock Act? And the simple reality is that the Supreme Court's never ruled on the Comstock Act. It's still on the books. It's been there for literally 150 years this year. It has, back a couple of decades ago, one of the circuit courts, I believe it was the Second Circuit Court, took a look at it and said this, you know, the ban on sending legal things through the mail. This was a lawsuit in the 1930s or 40s that had to do with a company called Young's Rubber. And Young's Rubber manufactured condoms out of rubber, out of latex. And they sued because the Comstock Act said that they couldn't ship their products. They couldn't ship it to their customers. They couldn't ship it to stores. They were very concerned about this. And the Supreme Court agreed with them and said, you know, condoms were legal or are legal now, and so the Comstock Act doesn't apply to them. But that has not been upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court could very easily just say, well, you know, that 1930s decision for Young's Rubber, we're going to reverse that. And we're going to say the Comstock Act still stands. It's on the books. It clearly reflects Congress's intent. And if Congress doesn't want the Comstock Act to be on the books, Congress should repeal it. Now, this, you know, in all probability, Congress would then get about repealing the Comstock Act. But I'm not sure that it would do it with this Congress. I don't think that MAGA Mike Johnson, who's guided by God and the Bible exclusively, is going to say, oh yeah, we're fine with mailing birth control and abortion and lewd purposes, things through the mail. I mean, Anthony Comstock was just one weird cat. This was, his mother died when he was 10, and he never again met a woman who lived up to his mother's standards. He went on, he used to travel around the country visiting pornography shows, visiting peep shows and belly dancers, and he had a huge collection of the hardest hardcore pornography that whenever he came to Washington, D.C. to lobby for things like the Comstock Act, he would invite all these male senators and members of the House of Representatives to these, you know, showings of his hardcore pornography, and they'd all go and they'd go, oh, this is terrible, I can't believe that, we gotta write a law against this. Hey, can we come back tomorrow night and watch this again, please? And I mean, literally, this is what happened. It was like Ed Meese's commission, you know, during the was it the Reagan administration or Nixon? I forget which one. Ed Meese was the Attorney General, and he watched some 600 hours of hardcore pornography and then said, this stuff damages your brain. It's like, we need to outlaw it. It's like, yeah, tell us about it. So anyhow, this is the bottom line. I mean, if the Comstock Act is upheld by the Supreme Court, and I frankly expect them to do so. Now, I realize that I'm probably the outlier here. Most don't. Dahlia Lithwick and Mark Joseph Stern are also writing about this over at Slate, where they say that, you know, even if the court just says, you know, hey, you know, go ahead and mail the stuff, They note more dramatically, such a move could leave open the possibility that a future Republican president could ban abortion nationwide without enacting a single new law by exploiting the puritanical Comstock Act of 1873. So it's like, you know, take this seriously. These people who are promoting this, you know, these Republicans, they're taking it very seriously. They want the Comstock Act enforced. And the Supreme Court could say to the Biden administration, you have to enforce this law. And then things are going to get real interesting. So, anyhow, we've got that. Is Jack Smith going to help or hurt Trump? What's going on with the Biden impeachment? I'll tell you about those things after the break. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Keep in mind, the Congress in 1997 updated the Comstock Act to include UPS and FedEx with all the mail. And welcome back. Ama in Harlem, New York. Is it Ama or Amma?
Amma.
Irma?
Amma.
Oh, Amma. Okay, got it. Thank you. Hey, Amma, what's up?
You're welcome. You're welcome, Tom. I just wanted to talk about the egregious practices in medicine and how there's a correlation and a correlation divide between women and men. And I'll get into that a few minutes later. I have women were granted in Roe v. Wade the freedom to choose what they do with their bodies. Now, I don't think that the medical community understands. They're like kind of sandwiched between abortion, what they do with the male reproduction organ, and stuff like that. I actually have something to say, and I won't take up too much time because it's really difficult for me at this time. I just lost my fiance, Nirushan Pereira from Sri Lanka. He had been staying in New York for like 10 years, and they took him over to Mount Sinai Morningside Hospital where he had seizures. Now, they overdosed him with insulin, and then he fell into an induced coma, and they took his organs.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Alma.
Yeah, so I don't have the words to say or what to think, but they told me he's dead. You'll never see him again, and we took some of his organs. So I think that we have to have an internal, external, and sort of eternal nation that can set an example, but also, like Kennedy, being prepared to defend the right for an existence.
Yeah.
You know, the quality of life.
Yeah.
And we should treat people better. And if they have rules about HIPAA and all of these things, everybody's a cheater, you know, but nobody wants to get cheated. So why should we, you know, watch Trump and all these other people that are collecting, like they're practically dying in a forest fire, like little fleas? We're insignificant, but it doesn't have to mean that it's better to perform your duty imperfectly, than to perform somebody's duty perfectly. I heard that from Margaret, you know.
Yeah, all good points, Alma, and thank you very much for calling and making them. And I'm very sorry to hear about your fiance. Just to kind of close the loop on my rant about the Comstock Act. The other thing that I forgot to mention was that when the Fifth Circuit looked at Kaczmarek's ruling, they upheld the Comstock Act part of it. The Supreme Court is not taking that piece, but they could leave it intact. But when they looked at this, they mentioned the Comstock Act. I pulled up the ruling yesterday. I got the whole thing, right? All the opinions and everything, the summary. And you just do a Control F, you know, a search on the word Comstock Act or the phrase Comstock Act. Shows up 27 times in this appeal. Read each one of those in context, and it's like, you know, Fifth Circuit was like, hey, the Comstock Act is still around, guys. So, you know, get ready. It's 21 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. So a lot of people are wondering, why is it in America that we can't have nice things? Why don't we have, the same things every other democracy has? Every other democracy in the world has a national health care system of some form, and everybody is covered. We don't. We've got 27 million uninsured people and over 100 million underinsured people. Why is that? Why is it that every other country in the world offers college education very inexpensively, if not for free, and for here you go to debt? Why is it that we've got our public schools crumbling and other countries are doing well? Why is it that we've got Medicare being taken apart by this Medicare Advantage scam and nobody will do anything about it? Well, it turns out the reason why it boils down to one thing, one Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, legalizing the bribery of our politicians. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. I think you're going to find it very, very useful. Check it out. And welcome back. So democracy is at stake. This is interesting. Some of these contrasting opinions. Donald Trump has gone to Judge Chutkan. Now, this is the criminal case against him for overthrowing the government of the United States, or trying to, right, for interfering with an official proceeding, et cetera. He has gone to this judge and said, because I was president, I am immune from prosecution. And, this is, and she said no. And he said, okay, I'm going to appeal your ruling. And he appealed it to an appeals court, thinking that the appeals court would take 6 months, and then, then he could appeal the appeals court and take it to the Supreme Court, and that would take, because his whole goal is to get out 11 months from now, which is when the election is. If he can prevent himself from being criminally convicted by anything, he can shut down the actual investigations when he becomes president, and then he never even has to worry about pardoning himself. So, Jack Smith says, okay, cool, and he files a reply in the circuit, in the appeals court. But Jack Smith also immediately goes to the Supreme Court and says, would you please look at this? I mean, this is going to end up in your lap anyway. You might as well look at it right now. And, there are some folks like Glenn Kirshner. He's a former federal prosecutor. He was on MSNBC yesterday. First of all, he said, it's only our democracy that's at stake. It's just small potatoes. But he said, basically, there's no way the Supreme Court is going to say that he's immune simply because he was president. I mean, that doctrine of immunity would be insane. And yet, at the same time, Andrew Weissman said it's clear that he's just trying to drag this out. They're making the same fundamental argument. But this is interesting. Weissman cited something I didn't know. When Trump made his argument to the appeals court, he said, they're trying to prosecute me for committing a crime while I was president. George W. Bush lied us into a war in Iraq that led to the death of thousands of Americans. He committed a crime, and nobody's trying to prosecute him. Why are they trying to prosecute me? This is actually one of the arguments that Donald Trump is making right now to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. It's getting no coverage. I mean, other than Andrew Weissman talking about it on Joy Reid's show on MSNBC, but big deal. And then you've got former FBI Assistant Director Chris Schwecker, who says that, in his opinion, the Trump humpers on the court are going to rule in favor of Donald Trump just because they want Trump back into the White House. They want to continue the grift, let the billionaires continue supporting them and their lifestyles and, buy a new bus for Clarence and all that kind of stuff. Ginny was right in the middle of trying to overthrow the government. So this former, assistant director of the FBI, he's saying, everybody thinks that the Supreme Court is going to rule that Trump's not immune. I think they're going to rule that he is. Or at least was with regard to this one particular case. Or that we have to set this aside and consider it later, because there's also an argument about, some technical aspects of exactly what was going on January 6th. So I don't know. Democrats, meanwhile, are explicitly calling for Clarence Thomas to recuse himself because his wife was right in the middle of January 6th. I mean, they've got text messages and emails from her. She was the guy who she was connecting John Eastman. She said, for those willing to do their duty, we should help them by giving a Wisconsin cert petition to add into the mix. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And Thomas is saying, no, I'm not going to recuse myself. Really? Your wife was in the middle of this?
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We're going to try to impeach Joe Biden. I'll tell you about that on the other side of the break, and then we'll pick up your calls. Stay with us. Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it. To fund this network all the way, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election, which is going to make it really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. $50 becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. Your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag, $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug, $120 gift, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, or my book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket, and with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's the general on there?
I'll put it on. Yes, sir. Ready?
Hello? General, how are you? Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, that public one, the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from Turkey. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba's concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yes.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off. By far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our word, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very, might say, conciliatory move he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is that's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests if they engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive acts and so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway, so that I think this is important for the time being, because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that, as we all know, they just probe, and their word's unreliable, so we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side. And somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at tom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. So the Biden impeachment, this is just nuts. I mean, first of all, David Axelrod comes out and just says it. You know, the Republicans voted, was it last night or this morning? I guess it was last night, to impeach Joe Biden. Or, pardon me, let me start over. They voted to open an investigation that could lead to the impeachment of Joe Biden. And you know, there's a debate actually right now in Washington, D.C. about whether they just gave the Democrats a gift because everybody's confident there's no there there, or whether they're going to succeed the way they did with Hillary Clinton. You know, the worst that they could ever figure out that she had done was have her private emails on a private server in her home, which every human being is entitled to. By the way, this is the same time that George W. Bush was using a private email server and Dick Cheney was using a private email server. And there's over 5 million emails, official emails, that are missing from the Bush-Cheney White House because they were using private servers. Now, Hillary Clinton was using hers not for business, but for personal use. Now, the hit on her was that there was a half dozen or a dozen, maybe 30, I guess, emails that came from or went to her personal server by accident that were business, that were government business. And I mean, but that's basically all they had on her. And they turned that into a national security scandal. While, as I said, George W. Bush was doing far worse, the same and worse. So anyhow, it looks to me like this is a political hit. I agree with David Axelrod. He said the speaker made a pilgrimage to President Trump. Who knows what they talk about, but he came back and now we have this vote. Obviously, this is something that Donald Trump wants so that he can go into the election saying, yeah, of course I got impeached twice, but so what? So was Biden. He got impeached too. And in fact, I'm predicting that sometime in the next couple of weeks, or maybe even next couple of months, we'll see, but the pressure's going to grow, that the House is actually going to vote to impeach Joe Biden. They'll come up with some flimsy little thing that that Biden can't explain. Oh, here's a $2,000 check that doesn't have a number written on it or something. I mean, they'll find something, right? What's the old saying? A grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. Well, so can Congress. They'll find something and they'll impeach him just so Trump can make this claim. And what they're doing is a real disservice to America, because what they're essentially doing is diminishing the importance of impeachment, both historically and for the future, and starting a new norm in America of using the impeachment process and the investigations in Congress. That wouldn't be a new norm. That began with Newt Gingrich in the 90s going after Bill Clinton that ultimately led to Monica Lewinsky. But this new standard that Newt Gingrich established that has done so much damage to America is going to be amped up tremendously. And now Comer, who's the head of the Oversight Committee, which is going to be him and Jim Jordan are going to be overseeing this impeachment investigation, was asked by Maria Bartiromo, can you tell us about the evidence? And he said, well, 6 different banks accused the Bidens of money laundering. That's a serious crime. This is a lie. Anytime you make a transaction in a bank that's over $10,000, the bank has to file with the IRS what's called a suspicious activity report, an SAR. Last year, in 2022, there were 3.6 million SARs filed. Yeah, I mean, you buy a house, you write a check for over $10,000 or $20,000, and boom, an SAR gets filed. Everybody, nobody takes it seriously. It's just, because, hey, he bought a house. This is how they try to catch drug dealers and things. So anyhow, Comer points out that there were 6 different times that somebody in the Biden family had a withdrawal or a deposit that was over 10 grand, and so an SAR was filed. He said that, and he says that means they've accused the Bidens of money laundering. It's literally not true. Nobody's accused the Bidens of anything. So then she tries to pin him down, and he says, well, we don't know exactly what they did, but we fear Joe Biden is compromised. And then they're like, well, what are you talking about here? And then he goes back to this bizarre theory that Viktor Shokin, the former Ukrainian prosecutor general who was fired at the insistence of the European Union, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the United States, and that Joe Biden was vice president, bragged about getting him fired, that had something to do with Hunter Biden having been on the board of Burisma, that Shokin had investigated Burisma. But Shokin had investigated Burisma years before Hunter Biden was on the board. I mean, there was literally no connection between these two things. This is a completely debunked conspiracy theory, and that's what James Comer dragged out yesterday. And it's just a sign of how pathetic these guys are, and what little they have to offer. So anyhow, let's pick up your calls here. It's 20 minutes before the hour. Dave in Camden, New Jersey. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good. What's up?
So it seems like the American Congress is finally starting to get a hold of public opinion with this whole Ukraine thing. In my opinion, this is going to go down as one of the worst foreign policy disasters of the 21st century. Over 500,000 Ukrainians are dead, and Russia still has not ceded territory that Ukraine is trying to take back.
Right.
It's just a dumpster fire that's going on, and it doesn't look like Zelensky's getting any more money.
I know in the EU, he may well be blocked in the European Union as well, because Putin now has got Orban on his side. I'll be writing about that tomorrow. This could be a real disaster. And then of course, if Putin, based on all that, rolls into Kyiv, if he takes over all of Ukraine, then we could be very, very close to World War III, because the minute that he starts probing the borders of Poland or Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania, which he's declared his intention to do, NATO's going to have to make a terrible decision.
Yeah, and I'll just push back on that a little bit. I mean, Ukraine's given Putin a real tough time with these 4 oblasts that he's trying to take over. So I really have a hard time believing that Putin's going to take all of Ukraine and march to the Baltics. I mean, that's literally World War III, and I feel like that's a scare tactic that's being used to get more
But
funding.
if Ukraine doesn't have the
Ukraine.
military to stop him, what's to stop him, Dave?
Well, Putin stated that he wants those 4 oblasts. He's never stated that he wants the entire.
That's not true. He gave an hour-long speech a year ago in which he said that the entirety of Ukraine is a myth, that there is no country of Ukraine, that it's not, that there's no legitimate claim, that all of that territory has been Russia's since before Catherine the Great, and it always will be. He has declared his intention to take the entire country on multiple occasions, Dave.
Okay, well, maybe I have to go ahead and revisit that. But from my understanding,
just go back and read
that
Putin's words. He gave a long, go read his speech about Ukraine, and that was the last time, other than this morning, when he restated his belief that they were going to take the entire country because his allies in Europe and the United States were going to cut off aid to Ukraine. That was the last time that he really spoke to this issue. Dave, I got to move along, but thanks for the call. Margot in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Hey, Margot, what's on your mind today?
You were talking about the Comstock Act.
Yeah.
And they had a law in Wisconsin from 1849 about abortion.
Right.
And Tammy Baldwin and some other Democrats in Wisconsin or in the government were fighting over that, and there might be daylight for Wisconsin there on the abortion situation.
Right.
But why do they go back to these old laws, 1800s? I mean,
because they can't
not
pass new ones.
To be working forward. The Republicans spend all this time and money on investigating everybody and their brother. They're so hypocritical.
That's because they have no legislative
Why
agenda.
don't-
I mean, the government needs to be funded, and in fact, we're going to run out of money in at the end of the year. I think it's. I guess they broke it up. It'll be a 2-week spread in the first couple of weeks of January. The whole government is going to run out of money, and they're doing nothing. They're doing
Well,
nothing
what
about
have the
border security. They're doing
Republicans
nothing
done in the
about.
last-
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What have the Republicans done in the last year?
Nothing.
Have they done anything for the people?
They
They're
passed
our
21
employees.
pieces of legislation. They renamed a building. I mean, it's they've done nothing for the average American. Period. They never do. I mean, that's the thing that people don't get. This is why I've been running this contest for 20 years. Name one thing that one piece of legislation that was written by Republicans, introduced by majority Republicans, voted on and passed by majority Republicans in the House and Senate, and signed by a Republican president, whose principal beneficiary is not an industry or billionaires, but whose principal beneficiary is the average American. In general, the broad swath of the American middle class. Name one piece of legislation, and you can't. There isn't one. It's just you can't do that. Anyhow, Margot, thanks for the call. I totally get what you're saying. It's 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay tuned. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Speaking the truths James Comer would really rather you didn't know all about.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be right back with more of your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Eugenia in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. First-time caller. I was wondering if the Comstock Act would also cover Viagra. That's not, I'm not a pharmacist, but that's not for fertility purposes, right? It's just
That's right.
lewd purposes.
Yep. Well, there are some medical conditions that it addresses, but generally speaking, it's used for sex. And that's where the interpretation of this gets so interesting, Eugenia, because the Comstock Act explicitly outlaws sending anything through the mail that is lewd or obscene or promotes lewdness or obscenity, right? And that was interpreted up until 1972 as including anything that had to do with birth control. There have been attempts to interpret that to include things like sex toys, vibrators and stuff like that. There's unsuccessfully, although there are some state laws that are like that. That are kind of like that. But if the Supreme Court comes back and says, yeah, we're going to note that the Comstock Act is still on the books, it explicitly says anything that could be used for abortion can't be shipped. So we're going to go along with that. But it also says anything that's lewd or indecent, and we decide. And I'm not suspecting that the court will do this, although it wouldn't surprise me if there was a minority opinion from Alito and Thomas saying this. But we decide that sex outside of marriage is also lewd and obscene by legal definition, and that promoting sex outside of marriage by sending people birth control products is also lewd and obscene. And we're going to go back to the pre-1972 standard. I mean, anything is possible with this court. I think that's the big point, Eugenia. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I got to move along, but thanks for the call. Jim in Orchards, Washington. Hey, Jim, what's up? Jim?
Are you talking to me?
I am. You're on the air.
Oh, okay. Well, Orchards. I'm not in Orchards, but that's fine. Many things that I would like to talk to you about, but I'm going to hit the big one. The big one is, my theory is about how to circumvent our government entirely by having really good polling systems and then putting all these major topics on the referendum so that people can vote on them. And I don't care whether it's abortion, gun control, the border, all of these particular things could be voted on by the public and circumvent people, the minority, Congresses, and Senate. And that's a big one. And then guns, you should have local armories in all cities so that all automatic weapons and things like that are checked in and checked out. And the border, there are so many things about the border of creating a whole thing for these border people in Southwest United States. And I mean using bunker buster bombs and creating lakes and making the water potable and all of these things that I've advocated for 30 years. And, and I just want to toss it out to you.
Okay. There's a lot there.
Well, there's a lot more that I could talk about. But
I'm guessing you're right. Jim, thank you. Some thought-provoking questions or ideas, I guess. We'll be right back with more of your calls in just 60 seconds. Stay with us. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it. Between 40 years of Ronald Reagan's neoliberalism destroying the American middle class and all the just horrors of January 6th and the Trump presidency, America's waking up, and that's a really good thing. There's actually, some books coming out about this. Mine, The Hidden History of Democracy. Neil Howe's The Fourth Turning is here. And it looks like a moment of American renaissance is upon us, if our media doesn't screw it up, which raises the question, can we have democracy and Fox News? Can the two coexist? Like, when Fox News runs chyrons saying that essentially Joe Biden is a wannabe dictator who's throwing Trump in jail because he's his political opponent. There's a whole rant about this and an in-depth analysis of what can we do with regard to repairing our media here in the United States over at HartmannReport.com. I think you'll find it interesting. Check it out. Nine minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Jeff in Pittsburgh. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind?
Yeah, hey, Tom, just a point of correction. Where you were talking about the banking transaction forms. For the 10,000, it's called a currency transaction report, and everybody gets that.
Okay.
The SARs that they filed against Hunter are something a bank initiates when they suspect a suspicious activity.
Right.
So customers never notified.
But they have to do with a financial threshold, because, like I said, there were 3.6 million SARs that were issued last year by banks.
Yeah, I think it's like 5,000, but it's not a dollar limit, Tom. It's purely
it's a judgment.
It has to be over 5,000, but it's purely judgmental on the part of the financial institution.
Yeah. Okay, but it's still not an accusation of money laundering.
It isn't. It's just something looks
Which is what
weird. Somebody's doing something that's off. But but it's not a CTR. So if I deposit 15,000 in a bank tomorrow, they'll file a CTR on me, but it won't be a suspicious activity report.
I see. Okay, well, thank you for that, Jeff. Appreciate the clarification.
Thanks.
Tim in Aloha, Oregon. Hey, Tim, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, Tom, we've talked many times, and I've been a follower of your program for many years, but, this whole thing with Fox News, a real quick, interesting story. I live in a middle-class neighborhood, and I try to keep in touch with my neighbors and stuff, and it becomes hilarious after certain times when so many of them are just defunct of what's evolving in history. And there's one guy who lives down the street, and I was talking to him, and I said, do you know Taliban and so forth? And he said, yeah, those are terrorist organizations. And I said, no. I said, those are benevolent organizations compared to Fox News, and he just about went off the rails. So you have to understand that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of the people in politics and in higher educational system don't understand the average guy on the street. It's a scary situation, you know.
Well, and
really
this
is,
this is a system of propagandizing and using populist outrage rhetoric that was fine-tuned back 60 years ago by Rupert Murdoch's father in Australia.
Right.
And badly distorted Australian politics, turned Australian politics
continuing
hard
today as we speak.
That's right. And now it's infected 3 different countries. I mean, the former Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, wrote an op-ed that was published in the Sydney Morning Herald, which is kind of the New York Times of Australia, that was titled, Rupert Murdoch is the cancer at the heart of Australian democracy. I mean, this is poison, and it's very profitable poison. These people became billionaires selling this poison.
That's what the media is all about. The worse news they can come up with, the more money they're going to make, because they're looking at demographics and market share and so forth. That's how it works. I was in retail sales for 40 years. I know how the system works. And as long as the bottom line is working in their favor, that's what they're going to pursue. It's as simple as that.
Yep, absolutely. Well said. Tim, thank you very much for that. Kenneth in Seattle. Hey, Kenneth, what's on your mind this morning?
Yes, hi. Bear in mind, first of all, I am in your camp, very much so, and I fully intend to vote for Biden. But he is vulnerable in this regard. The material support to Israel in its criminal conduct, and that could enter the. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. I'm 81.
You're absolutely right, Kenneth. Excuse me, and it already has. I mean, Biden's already taking a lot of flack from people across the political spectrum for going around Congress, for example, and providing weaponry to Israel just this week, I believe.
And the Republicans could exploit that in
I think they could, although they're kind of on the same side right now. But you know, the flip side of that, which is not being well reported in my opinion, is that from the very beginning, from October 7th forward, you know, Joe Biden went over to Israel and said, do not do what George Bush did. Do not respond to this with a dramatic, brutal bombing campaign. It damaged America. It damaged our interests. It continues to damage America. You will only harm Israel if you do that. And Netanyahu instead said, no, I'm going to bomb the crap out of these people because if I don't, you know, because there's a popular demand for revenge and I've got to hang on to this prime ministership or I go to prison. And the domestic politics of this, I think, have completely subsumed it.
Yes, I do realize. I should also quickly interject. I myself am Jewish, so I can't really be accused of being an anti-Semite. But what Israel is doing, it's
wrong. They violated the rules of war. I mean, it's that simple.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
yes, and very, very, I mean, just criminally. Seriously is too mild a word. It's criminal.
Yep.
And well, and anyway, but now I'm reciting the alphabet.
I'm not disagreeing, and you know, and Biden is starting to speak out more and more aggressively against this behavior and saying, you know, let's pull together an international coalition. Let's do this surgically. Let's do this carefully. We can take a few weeks or a few months. Although we've got to get the hostages back.
Right, but he hasn't cut funds, and so therefore he's complicit. And so,
yeah, well, he hasn't.
Anyway.
He hasn't. I mean, he sent those bombs, and that was under previous appropriations. But right now, the money is the money's not there, and it's up to Congress to appropriate it. And I think that's going to it's going to produce a very interesting conversation when they finally get around to debating this. Kenneth, thank you for the call. We'll be back. Phil Ittner is going to drop by. We'll talk about what's going on in Ukraine on the other side of the break.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it. To fund this network all the way, you know, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, you know, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, you know, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election, which is going to make it really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. Your $50 becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. As, you know, your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, what, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag, $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug, $120 gift, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, or my book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket, and with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Oh, is the general on there?
I'll put it on. Yes, sir. Ready?
Hello? General, how are you? Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, that public one the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll be find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba is concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yeah.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off by far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our word, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very I think he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is keep. That's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests if they engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive action, so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month, we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway. So that I think this is important for the time being because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that as we all know, they just probe and their word's unreliable. So we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side and somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And, you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. On the line with us, our buddy Phil Ittner, the veteran war correspondent, typically based out of Kyiv, Ukraine. Right now, he's here in the United States. His video blog is over at YouTube. Philip Ittner is all you need to know to find it. PhilipIttner, 6 letters in each name. And Phil, welcome back to the program. I'm curious your thoughts on on the impact and consequences of the Republicans now refusing to fund further aid to Ukraine, and the fact that Orban's people were meeting with the Republicans yesterday and the day before in Washington, D.C., and they're claiming that they're going to block Ukraine aid in the European Union. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, this is not good news, and it's not being received well back in Ukraine. I've been in contact with people while I'm here in New York to their reaction as to, firstly, what happened during President Zelensky's visit to D.C., which was disheartening for many, especially after Speaker Johnson's, his statement of, like, we need to know more about what victory will look like. Well, President Zelensky has articulated quite well what victory looks like for Ukraine and how to achieve it. That's willful on the speaker's part of ignoring that, right. And the fact that they're tying it to. Yeah, it was a bad faith statement, willful ignorance, and an indication that this is no surprise to the Ukrainian, but that U.S. domestic politics are being now embroiled in a war where people are dying daily. They are losing. I am in contact with people in cities like Kherson, in Odessa, Kharkiv. Of course, I'm not in touch with people in Avdiivka, but Avdiivka is going on, that massive battle there. So every day Ukrainians are losing their lives, and they see from D.C. This internal squabble about border issues that is going on with this squabble between the GOP and the Democrats. And as I say, every day people are dying. So as a Ukrainian, you could easily understand where their frustration lies. Of course, they're grateful for the aid that's already come, but they are making progress on the battlefield. There is a clear path to a way to, at the very least, deal some very serious damage to the Russians, if not actually force them to recognize that they cannot win in Ukraine. That is achievable. And if you listen to military experts, both internally within Ukraine and in the wider world, that is an accepted opinion. I mean, it is manageable. So to have them draw U.S. politics into this when they are when there is light on the horizon and there is a possible path towards victory. They were heartened. A lot of my friends in Ukraine were heartened to at least hear President Biden when he was with Zelensky say that the U.S. actually supported a Ukrainian victory. Heretofore, there's been a lot of talk about we're going to stand with you until the end and this kind of thing. But they were very frustrated because there wasn't this language of, we are going to help you win. We are going to help you defeat the Russians. And so that little statement by President Biden of we are with Ukraine, to see a Ukrainian victory, that was well received. But a lot of the other stuff was not. And of course, the fact that money is being withheld or has been withheld, that's a continued frustration for Ukrainians as well. As far as what's happening on the other side of the Atlantic with the European Union and Orban is becoming a real problem for the European Union. He is an outlier. There are other individual groups that are out there in a lot of different NATO or EU countries that are voicing concern about continued support for Ukraine, but it's really Orban that is the center of gravity when it comes to at least a more sympathetic ear towards Russia and a desire to end the conflict, no matter whether Russia benefits from their illegal and war of aggression and colonial aggression. So I'm hearing a lot of talk within the European sphere about what to do about Orban, because Orban internally, domestically, within his own country, has diminished civil liberties. He has broken with some of the major tenets of the European Union, which are required for membership. He is becoming a major question. And what to do about Viktor Orban is becoming a much more vocal discussion. They don't like the fact that he is, taking this very aggressive anti-Ukrainian position. There was a clash. There was a tense conversation between Zelensky and Orban when they met at a European conference meeting. The cameras were on, and we don't know what was said, but just by sheer body language, you could tell that Zelensky was expressing his displeasure to Orban. So
Orban's become Putin's
these are all major issues.
I mean, this is
absolutely,
as have a bunch of Republicans here in the United States, and I just find it absolutely shocking. Phil, entertain my paranoia here for a moment, or maybe talk me down. About 2-3 months ago, I noticed that basically live reporting from Ukraine had just stopped on the television screen, or at least the screens that I was watching, which was CNN, MSNBC, occasionally the big networks. It just stopped. It looked to me like all the big news agencies must have pulled all of their serious reporters out of the country. Then came October 7th and this whole mess in Israel, and virtually all reporting about Ukraine just went to zero. Is it possible that 3-4 months ago, when the news media just basically started their blackout on Ukraine coverage, that the senior executives in the news industry heard from the GOP that they're going to go with Putin instead of with Ukraine, and now might be a good time to get your people out because the country's going to fall? I mean, is it?
Well, there's a lot to talk about there. There are some points that you are expressing that are 100% valid. I am not sure about the warning that Ukraine is about to fall, because that's not the case. Ukraine is in a very solid place on the battlefield. Some have expressed it as a stalemate. I don't think so. I think actually, especially with them having now gotten troops onto the left bank of the Dnieper River, which gets them within spitting distance of severing the land bridge, which will be an existential threat to Putin and to Russia's sense of identity as empire, because Crimea is a cornerstone of their empire, as is most of as is a huge chunk of Ukraine, which they have lost and lost forever. And if they can sever the land bridge, that will, be brought home. It will be inescapable to the Russian people. And the Russian people can suffer losing their soldiers and their young men. And I'm sorry to say this cynically, but they'll accept the loss of hundreds of thousands of their young men, but they will not accept the loss, in my opinion, of their pride and their history. They went through 91 and the embarrassment of the collapse of the Soviet Union. Many of those people are still alive, and to see a defeat like losing Crimea and Odessa and all these satellite areas which they thought were firmly ensconced in their sphere of influence, that will be another embarrassment and an erosion of their sense of self again as empire. So it's not the people who are dying; it's their pride that will bring Vladimir Putin down, in my opinion. Yeah. Now, as far as the press corps is concerned, you're absolutely 100% right, and it's shameful. It is shameful. I spent 25 years in the news industry. All the networks are gone. Everybody has decamped. I went up to the about 2 weeks after I returned after Thanksgiving. I went up to the Intercontinental Hotel, which was the hotel where the press corps was basically ensconced. That was their base of operations. And I spoke to people working there, and they said, no, they've all left. All the press corps has left. It is shameful. I cynically believe that it is also a financial decision because, of course, in Israel, most of the networks and news organizations have infrastructure, whether that's an office and a bureau and a car and a fixer and a driver and all the things that they need, but they have to invest in Kiev. They're spending tons of money. So cynically, I think that there was a financial decision to leave, and that's a great disservice to the news and keeping Ukraine on the front pages, which is where it belongs, because it's one of the most important historical events that is happening right now, and probably will be one of the most significant historical events of all of our lives. This is a inflection point moment. Do we go towards autocracy and what Putin has to offer, or do we stick with, as flawed as it is, the system of liberal democracy?
Right. And this is the choice that Putin is now offering the world.
This is the alternative. This is exactly. Yep.
And shockingly, Republicans. I mean, this, my dad's old Republican Party. Let's go fight the Vietnam War. I'm just aghast, Phil. I don't.
I mean, you and me both, Tom. I find it very depressing. I find it shameful. I have to apologize to my Ukrainian friends and colleagues. You're right. There was a time when the GOP would champion anybody who they felt was, a Jeffersonian democracy, even to the extent of doing some really awful, illegal things. Now, this is a just war. And where are the GOP? Where are the Republicans? They're siding with Putin.
Yeah, it's criminal. And it needs to be called out, and it needs to be called out explicitly in those terms. And our media is not doing that either. Phil Ittner, brilliant. You can follow his blog his video blog over on YouTube. Just plug in his name. Ittner. Phil, thanks so much for dropping by.
Always a pleasure, Tom.
Good talking with you. And also, you can follow Phil on Twitter at IttnerPhilip. We'll be right back. It's 17 minutes past the.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Trump is putting together his blueprint to Christianize the American government. Seriously? I'll tell you about that after the break. And welcome back. Howard in Oglesby, Illinois. Hey, Howard, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. You had talked earlier about the Supreme Court picking up Jack Smith's appeal, just leapfrogging over the middle court. Mm-hmm. And you got some concern about thinking that they're not going to rule in Smith's favor, and understandably so. I'm one of those guys that has to think for a minute. Okay, they picked this up while the ink was still wet,
right?
From Jack Smith. And I thought, well, it's going to go one of two ways. You've got the McConnell picks on the bench. They're not Trump's. They signed up. What did they sign up for? Because this is bigger than Nixon, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I'm inclined to think that they're going to rule in favor of Jack Smith.
I think so, too.
Okay.
But I'm not certain. And that in and of itself should be shocking,
Absolutely, because in normal civilized the political world, you can pretty much guess and be correct about which way they're going to rule on this, rule on that. But in this time in life, it's like, I don't know what they're going to do. So I thought two things. The good and the bad. The good to me is that Jack Smith gets his way, and they rule that no one's above the law.
Right.
Brett Kavanaugh wrote something 25 years ago to that effect.
I know.
So he's part of the picks. So do they draw the line? The ones that are uncertain. I don't trust Clarence Thomas. Never will. Alito's questionable. But those three picks that McConnell appointed while Trump was around was, I just sensed them looking at Mitch or Trump saying, hey, we gave you Roe. We're not going to give you this.
Yeah.
But the other side of the coin was, why did they pick it up so fast? Are they so diehard, loyal to, let's say, Trump, that they're trying to influence any court around them and rule against them? They've got some,
because they want him back.
The Leonard Leos, the Harlan Crows. These are ruthless people that are, nothing's going to stop them. They'll just regroup and go at you again.
Yeah, you don't get to be a billionaire by being a nice guy.
No, you got to step on a few toes. But I'm thinking, if they have conscience, I'm thinking that they're going to rule in favor of Jack Smith. Now, just a quick question. Does that affect the lower court? Because they picked up the appeal, too.
If the Supreme Court precedes the lower court, then the lower court just drops the case.
Their point is moot either way.
Right. If the lower court rules before the Supreme Court, then if the rulings are consistent with each other, they both stand. If there is any area of conflict, the Supreme Court has priority.
Okay, so the ruling coming from the Supreme Court is going to be the final say. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They are the final court of appeals. And
every time you turn around, you think, okay, that's it. And then boom, here comes some other shenanigans of politics.
Yeah.
No, we can appeal this to that, blah, blah, blah. So fingers crossed.
I agree. I was looking for the impeachment clause in the Constitution, but I'll have to find it another time. Howard, thank you for the call. Spot on. Yeah, it's, we're all, I guess at the moment, with regard to the Supreme Court anyway, we're all just kind of, visitors here. We're just tourists. We're just watching, spectators. We'll be right back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So Vivek Ramaswamy, during the first Republican debate, was laying out his vision for America. And by the way, he was the #2 guy in the debate, according to the Washington Post, in which he was arguing that we should basically do away with all of our federal agencies. Really, virtually all of them. Just shut them down and make them go away. He's not the first person to argue this. David Koch, running on the Libertarian ticket in 1980 for vice president, was arguing the same thing. He had a long list of federal agencies he wanted to shut down. This is not an uncommon thing among billionaires, and Ramaswamy is a billionaire. They basically want to take America back to the 1920s, before we had what they call the welfare state. And if they do so, they will turn America into a failed state. They want to make America into something like Haiti or Libya, and that would be a disaster. There's a whole article about it that you can read all the details. It's titled, "Is Vivek Ramaswamy a Different Kind of Republican Cat?" at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. And welcome back. What is going on here? Trump is putting together his blueprint to Christianize the government. Seriously. This is how you get preachers all over the country to advocate for you, even when you, cheated on every single one of your 3 wives, even when you pay, porn stars for sex, even when you're good friends with Jeffrey Epstein and, et cetera, et cetera. But MSNBC's Sarah Posner is pointing out that Trump's Project 2025 agenda has an emphasis on, quote, Christian nationalism. She's the author of a new, or not a new book, it came out a year before last, Unholy, How White Christian Nationalists Powered the Trump Presidency and the Devastating Legacy They Left Behind. And she writes, whether Republicans like Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota, whatever Republicans like Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota may claim, Donald Trump was not being funny about governing as a dictator. We know he meant it because we saw he did what he did in his first term, including after his 2020 loss. We also know he's not joking because he has an army of right-wing activists who are bent on carrying out their own authoritarian agenda for the Christianization of the federal government, especially at the Department of Health and Human Services. She notes that this is all in, the Heritage Foundation's Leadership 2025, the Conservative Promise blueprint. And in the Heritage document, she says Severino, this is, a Trump ally, makes clear that punishing blue states remains a key goal. He wants to cut off Medicaid, for example, to states like California that allow abortion. This is an authoritarian agenda. There is just absolutely no doubt about it. Which raises the question, why is it that CNN gave an hour last night to Vivek Ramaswamy to talk on live television and just spout lies? He basically did a town hall where he was answering the questions of people in the audience. Oliver Darcy is the guy who has, is now the new media critic over at CNN. And CNN's Reliable Sources newsletter. And he just went after CNN for helping, quote, helping to legitimize the dishonest GOP presidential hopeful who has spewed dangerous lies and injected poison into the national discourse at every chance. Why is CNN doing this? Now, CNN is saying, well, you know, he had enough support to make it into the debates, so, you know, we feel an obligation to invite him to come on TV and make his pitch to the American people. But you know, some people are saying, why would any major news network help to validate such a preposterous figure by putting him on the stage and allowing him to infect the public with his conspiracy campaign? Handing Ramaswamy, this is from CNN's own guy, handing Ramaswamy a microphone and putting him on stage, affixed with CNN's iconic branding to answer audience questions, helps validate him and provides oxygen to the menacing wildfire of delusions he has pushed into the public discourse. Yeah. You know, they put Donald Trump on, too. I think there's a stronger case to be made for that, frankly. But still, Vivek Ramaswamy is one slimy cat. I'll be back with your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the place where smart people get their news. I'll be back with your calls right after this. Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it, to fund this network all the way, you know, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, you know, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, you know, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election, which is going to make it really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. Your $50 becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. As you know, your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, what, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag, $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug, $120 gift, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, or my book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket, and with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's the general on there.
I'll put it on. Yes, sir. Ready?
Hello? General, how are you? Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, the public one, the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from Turkey. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll be find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba is concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yeah.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off by far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our word, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very, I think, conciliatory move he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is that's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests if they engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive acts and so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway, so that I think this is important for the time being, because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that, as we all know, they just probe, and their word's unreliable, so we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side, and somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And, you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount. Hey, if you like the rants that I open the show with every day, they're typically published over at hartmannreport.com. Check it out. You know, one of the grand questions that political scientists have been scratching their heads over for years in America is, why do right-wing billionaires fund anti-movements? Why are they pouring money into these people? Why are they funding anti-trans movements? I mean, what does this have to do with being a billionaire? Well, it turns out it has a lot to do with it, and here's why. Almost 30 million Americans lack health insurance. 37 million of us live in dire poverty. 1 in 5 of us are illiterate. A quarter of Americans suffer from a diagnosable mental illness and can't get treatment. 316 people are shot every day in America. 44% of us carry student debt. And the billionaires don't want to pay income taxes to deal with any of these problems of society. That's the real issue. If they can get us fighting with each other over black history or over trans people or kids, they win. Then we're not talking about taxing them, raising their taxes to where they should be. There's a whole rant about this over at hartmannreport.com that you can read and see all the stats and all the hot links. Check it out. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. And oh, that's New York State. We'll get to that in the next hour. All right, let's pick up your calls here. Robert in Modesto, California. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind today?
Hi, how you doing? I was just going back to the Comstock Act to tack on to the previous caller's Viagra comment. I'd like to refer you to the case of the People versus Ham Sandwich, because most guys I know, if it's not hardwired or reflexive, it's our favorite thing to do is to make things dirty.
I don't understand, Robert.
As a male, we can turn just about anything dirty.
Right.
Bananas, donuts, and so. Wouldn't that be like a slippery slope kind of thing? That's why I'm saying the people versus ham sandwich.
Oh, I see. So you're arguing that if the Supreme Court rules that the Comstock Act says that you can't send things that are obscene through the mail, it wouldn't just end with abortion or birth control devices.
Yeah, the people versus ham sandwich argument.
It could go in other directions. Assuming you're not being facetious, it could go in other directions.
Well,
I just don't expect it to. I really don't. Robert, thanks for the call. Ken in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Hey, Ken, what's up?
Not too bad. Hey, here's a little twist. I know the real reason why Trump is doing the whole I'm immune thing, but let's just take it to another level. Be careful, Trump, because what are you saying that Biden would be immune to?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if the president is immune from prosecution for criminal activity, then Biden could put out a hit, have Trump kidnapped or something, and just, stash him in the basement of a building in Washington, D.C. until after the election and never heard from again. And he could say, hey, go ahead and arrest me. The Supreme Court says I'm immune.
Exactly. So I think that a lot of Democrats will just turn that around and then see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
And see how many Trump people go, oh, yeah, he's immune. Oh, well, wait a minute. No, Biden can't be doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's the exact same thing as, there are still Trump people running around going, well, the vice president can just give the election to whoever they want. The vice president has that power. And then you say to them, okay, cool, the vice president's Kamala Harris, and we've got an election coming up. Thanks for the information. At which point they start going, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what I meant. But that's, clearly what they meant. Yeah. Okay, Ken, thank you.
Tom. Have a good one.
That was a good one. Thank you very much. Joan in Rochester, Minnesota. Hey, Joan, what's on your mind today? Joan in Rochester, watching on Free Speech TV.
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to talk about the people that follow Trump, and they are really lacking in self-respect, morality, and ethics. And I think that they follow a man for what morsels they hope he sends their way, and they are puppets that are willing to destroy their own country and people, and they forget they have been hired as employees of the people of this country, and they are not hired to follow a low life of the ages. And we need some people that are going to think with me and the man in the street and all our future children.
Yeah.
And all of that. So thank you.
Well, this is why the Progressive Caucus is refusing to take PAC money. We're here for the people who elected us. We're not here for the fat cats. And I'm with you, Joan. We need an ethos like that, just right across the board, in both parties. And tragically, it doesn't even remotely exist in the Republican Party, and it's only about half the Democratic Party. In the right direction, they really are. Joan, thank you for the call. Kathy in Redding, California. Hey, Kathy, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom.
Hi.
Dude, I am so glad to talk to you.
Thank you. Back at you.
I love your program. Thank God for your program.
Thank you.
Okay, so I live in an area in Northern California where Sinclair Broadcasting Group is the provider of the local TV station on antenna.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the people here get Sinclair Broadcasting News misinformation.
Yeah, which is
after Biden won the election, and you probably already know this, they would not allow the newscasters to say President Biden.
Oh, really? Biden?
No, I don't know what they said, but the words President Biden were verboten. And so I wondered if you've ever done a thing about this, because I've also gone through Arizona, other towns where they own 300 stations. They pretend to be mom and pop stations. So it's not Fox News, okay?
Right.
So you're watching your local news channel, and they won't say the words President Biden. And to this day, on the local news channel here, they're spreading misinformation, but on the micro level. For example.
Yeah.
Besides not being able to say President Biden, it's all negative things about his age. It's just skewed, and the owners are Republican.
Oh, Sinclair is openly, nakedly partisan. Yeah,
Horrible.
They're following
horrible.
the money-making strategy that Rupert Murdoch's father pioneered. Sir Keith Murdoch.
Exactly.
Which
There's
is
a mini
yellow
Fox
journalism.
Newses. Yes.
Yeah, it's just yellow journalism.
Yeah, mini Fox Newses.
Yep.
And there are 300 stations across the United States. I looked it up while I was waiting in the queue, and I'm grateful to talk to you. I want to thank you for a couple other. I have ADDH, and you and Louise, you have things you put out there about. Yeah,
we're going to talk about it in the next hour, and we have the.
And one more thing, the last thing is the victim thing. When I've had issues legally where I saw a therapist, and I was told that most perpetrators of violent crime, say that they were the victims. And so I think the whole political climate has gone to that, victims versus aggressors, and that you have to defend yourself. But
no,
I learned.
I'm with you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, that's all. I'm done.
Yeah, and the Republican Party has officially adopted the Donald Trump mindset, which is we're bullies.
It's a victim.
They're going to constantly proclaim victimhood because they want martyrs. This is the Horst Wessel moment, the Ashley Babbitt moment. But mostly they're bullies, and if they don't get their way, they're going to get revenge. Kathy, thank you for the call. Well said. Mike in Salem, Oregon, listening on KMUZ. Hey, Mike, what's up? Mike?
Hello, Tom.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, Tom. Hello, Tom.
I hear you, Mike.
Can you hear? I hear you.
Okay, we're on the air. You gonna say something?
I'm gonna say, what about how come we don't have our Autobahn? How come we don't have the 300-mile-an-hour train? How come Americans don't get that kind of stuff? We deserve it. We're Americans.
Because Republicans don't want to spend money on things that might help the average person. The problem, building private airports for billionaires for their private jets, but no, we're not going to do those kind of things here in America. We can't afford that. According to the Republicans, you got to have your average billionaire paying about a 3% income tax rate, which is what it is right now in the United States, and screw the regular people. That's their worldview. Mike, thanks for the call. John in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I just wanted to share a conversation I just had with my congressman, who is a Republican. I asked him to, share with me the evidence he has for the inquiry and what crime it was he's going after. Of course, they couldn't answer that, and I said, well, I was talking to their office. I said, well, what if I just swore a warrant out for you and just get the FBI looking at police, whoever, and see what we can find. We might find something. I don't know what I'm looking for. We don't know, but maybe we can just look and see. And I want to encourage everyone listening to you, if you've got a Republican congressman, bless your heart, to do the same thing. Just call in with that ridiculous notion that why don't we just have them arrested and just see what we can find in their past.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you could have them arrested, but you could certainly open an inquiry into them.
The gist is turn it around on them, and ridiculous that sounds.
I totally get it. Yeah, it is. It's absurd. It's obscene, frankly. It's like I said, they're trying to diminish the consequence, the importance, the significance of an impeachment. John, thank you for the call. And they're doing this because Donald Trump told them to. And this is just another demonstration. Vladimir Putin owns Donald Trump. Donald Trump owns the Republican Party. The Republican Party is doing what Putin wants with regard to Ukraine and with regard to deceit in America.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
If America goes authoritarian the way that Donald Trump is trying to take us, then Vladimir Putin has an ally. That's what it's all about. And welcome back. Jeffrey in Shreveport, Louisiana. Hey, Jeffrey, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I'm calling from Speaker Johnson's
oh, my goodness.
city.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I've been wondering why this is not on the national radar here. Our sheriff's race a couple of weeks ago, was won by one vote. The Democrat had one vote. That should be a story the Democrats love.
Yeah.
But the Republican, he seemed to concede that night. But then suddenly, all of a sudden, hey, dead people are voting and irregularities and lawsuits. And now we have another. I mean, the Democrat won on a recount. In fact, he gained votes on a recount. But who cares? We're going to have a new election.
Really?
And really, and no one on a national level seems to care about this. This is Henry Whitehorn. Henry Whitehorn is the black sheriff who won.
This is in Shreveport.
This is in Shreveport. Well, this is Caddo Parish. But my vote was taken away.
Amazing.
It was won on a recount, and still, the Republican took it to a judge, to an appeals panel actually, and now we're going to have a new election. Which, historically, runoffs, black people don't win, generally win runoffs because they run out of money.
Well, and average working people don't show up for them because it's expensive to vote in a lot of places. You got to take time off work.
Right. The first time I saw a runoff here was a mayoral race. It was a hard-fought race. It was commercials every second, seemed like. But then when it went to the runoff, the black candidate just disappeared. He just vanished, and of course lost the runoff.
Yeah,
because
he'd run out of money. A lot of these candidates, they budget for the election, but then they don't have any money left over for a runoff for that kind of thing, or for a second election.
Right.
Yeah. So Leo, excuse me, for Jeffrey, is there general outrage being expressed across Shreveport, or is the local media taking a ho-hum approach to this too?
It seems like it's just going under the radar, and I'm sorry if someone's trying to call if you hear that beep.
That's quite all right.
But it's like it's just happening, and no one's outraged about this. I'm just going, hold on a second here. I took out time to vote. The guy won by one vote.
Right.
Which was my vote. That was my vote he won by. And then on the recount, he gets more votes. And it's like he still lost, and it just kills me how if this were the other way around, the Republican would have taken that one vote and said, hey, this is a mandate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that would be the end of the discussion, and they would fight you all the way to the Supreme Court to stop any variation, and incredible. But I guess my question, Jeffrey, is there going to be a big enough backlash to this Republican effort in Shreveport that Democrats are going to get out and vote? I mean, is it possible that this might blow up in the Republicans' faces?
I don't see any backlash. It's just news. It's just this is what's happening now, and here's an interview.
Amazing. Well, and also it's a sheriff's race. They're not typically the high-profile races. Jeffrey, thanks for the heads up on that. I had no idea. I appreciate the information. And appreciate you watching us there on YouTube in Shreveport. We'll be back. It's 49 minutes past the hour. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. So a lot of people are wondering, why is it in America that we can't have nice things? Why don't we have, the same things every other democracy has? Every other democracy in the world has a national health care system of some form, and everybody is covered. We don't. We've got 27 million uninsured people and over 100 million underinsured people. Why is that? Why is it that every other country in the world offers college education very inexpensively, if not for free, and for here you go to debt? Why is it that we've got our public schools crumbling and other countries are doing well? Why is it that we've got Medicare being taken apart by this Medicare Advantage scam and nobody will do anything about it? Well, it turns out the reason why it boils down to one thing, one Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, legalizing the bribery of our politicians. There's a whole rant about this over at hartmannreport.com. I think you're going to find it very, very useful. Check it out. Nine minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Leo in Portland. Hey, Leo, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'd just like to say kudos to you for shining the light on issues that people don't pay enough attention to. I disagree with you, though, as far as the solution to it. I got more of not the mainstream solution to it. I think that,
What's the
like
it
on
that
your
we're
break,
trying to solve,
you say,
first off?
So like you were saying, you know, why do billionaires care about critical race theory and trans issues, and, you know, what does it mean to them? And I think you hit the nail on the head as to why. But pretty much any issue, the abortion issue, I think that, you know, I lay the fault at the DNC's feet, because we take the bait and we have those arguments, and we go way the other direction and make it into, you know, why drag core in schools is more important, and we pay a lot more attention to it than getting civics back into schools and boosting teachers' pay. I think we take the bait on these.
Leo, first of all, you know, the Democratic Party, I'm not even sure has taken any kind of official position on Drag Queen Story Hour, although, you know, I think they would generally support the idea. But you know, I mean, that's just stuff that Fox News smears all over the TV to try to get people outraged. It's not, you know, this is not something that most people care about. And there is an effort to get civics back in schools. The problem is you've got multiple red states now. In Florida and Texas, for example, the entire state, in Arizona, in the entire state, people can just walk away from public schools and take the state and federal funding with them. And it's destroying our public school system, which is their goal. I mean, you've got, you know, people in the Republican Party who have been saying since David Koch ran for vice president in 1980 that their explicit goal is to end all public schools in the United States because they are instruments of government indoctrination, or they are examples of socialism. Education should be the obligation of the family. And, you know, that's the real war that's going on right now. And the Republicans have been fighting that war ever since Reagan, and ever since Reagan cut the federal education budget by 30%.
Right. And I just don't see the pushback, you know, as much as for social issues. But I mean, look at abortion. You know, the Democrats have had to codify, you know, and they just look back after you know, it gets blown up in their face, and they look back with, you know, and say, oh, well, look what happened. You know, you had 50 years to do something about it.
No, they did. There was nothing to do anything about. The Supreme Court had ruled in 1973 that abortion was legal in the United States. And, you know, so why do you have to rush out and pass a piece of legislation saying, yes, we agree with the Supreme Court? Come on. Not the Democrats' fault, Leo. This is very much not the Democrats' fault. I'm going to move along here. Les in Winnemucca, Nevada. Hey, Les, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning, Thom Hartmann.
Hey.
I keep hearing a mischaracterization on the news, and all of you are guilty of it, and I just got to say something. In Helsinki in 2017, Putin came right out and said, I told all my generals to do all they could to help President Trump get elected.
That's correct.
What he said. And that's an admission right there. He doesn't go out there and plan these things. He has his boys do all that stuff. He has this all in line. They've been messing on the internet ever since the internet's been there. Yeah. And they've been screwing with us on the internet, and they're still doing it right now.
Yep, I agree.
You know?
I agree.
Right on.
And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Les. Yeah, and we need to be reminded of what Putin said, because he did say that. Not exactly in those words, but damn close. Connie in Shady Grove, Oregon. Hey, Connie, what's on your mind today?
Hi, my representative is Republican Bench.
Uh-huh.
And I was watching Channel 5 last night, and he texted them, and he said that they have evidence to impeach the president.
Which is a lie.
So he's huh?
Which is a lie.
I know. Everything they say is a lie. I agree every time you talk with you. That's why I watch you.
Well, thank you.
But I just thought, oh, this is, well.
So
anyway.
did the news media there in Shady Grove, Oregon, or Cove, Oregon, did they report this as if it was true? That Republicans have evidence?
No, it was out of Medford.
Uh-huh.
It was out of Medford.
Right.
Yeah. No, they didn't say anything.
So they didn't correct him. They just reported it.
No, they just reported it.
Incredible. This is what Republicans rely on, is that the media will not point out their lies when they lie, because the media are afraid of losing connections. They're afraid of if you have to have guests in order for your radio or television program to work, and that's the case with many of these news operations, you have to have guests, then those guests have power over you, and that's what's going on. Connie, thank you very much for the call. It's one of the reasons why I don't depend on guests on this show. I frankly don't care what most of these people think of me. I'm just going to come on the program every day and tell my truth. And people disagree with me. That's fine, but I just can't imagine being terrified that if I talk back to a Republican, he'll never come on my program again. Oh my God.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it. To fund this network all the way, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election, which is going to make it really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. It becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. As your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag. $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug. $120 gift, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, or my book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author. $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket. And with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Oh, is the general on there?
I'll put it on. Yes, sir. Ready?
Hello? General, how are you? Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, that public one, the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from Turkey. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba's concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yeah.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off by far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our words, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very, I think, conciliatory move he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is that's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests if he engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive acts and so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway, so that I think this is important for the time being because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that, as we all know, they just probe and their word's unreliable, so we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side. And somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. Oh, this is an interesting story. This kind of came out of nowhere, or out of left field, as it were. Remember Bridget Ziegler, the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, the woman whose husband is charged with rape for going over to the home of the woman that the three of them were having threesomes with, and forcing her into, allegedly forcing her into having sex with him. His name is Christian Ziegler, and while his wife, is the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, he is the chairman of the Florida Republican Party, which has, who's now charged with rape and threesomes. And in fact, he's not even denying that he went over to her house and it was consensual, that it wasn't rape. So now the Florida Republican Party has a bit of a problem. Although they are supporting Donald Trump, who's been credibly accused of rape by 20 women, including one who is 13 years old, who has been associated with Jeffrey Epstein and his Lolita Express and all that kind of stuff, who has been actually found guilty. I don't know if that's the correct word in a civil proceeding, but has been adjudicated a rapist by a court in New York. And in fact, originally he was charged with sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, and he lost. And then on the appeal, the judge came back and said, no, this was rape. And so, so the party down in Florida is actually officially, well, it's not officially supporting Donald Trump because they're torn between him and DeSantis, but many in the party are big supporters of a guy who's officially a rapist. So why should they worry about having an alleged rapist as the head of the GOP in Florida? Well, apparently they still worry about it. The appearances matter. And so they're saying to Christian Ziegler, it's time for you to leave. And he's saying, cool, cross my hands with $2 million and I'll walk away. Interesting, huh? This is from Florida Politics, which is a Florida newsletter. Quote, multiple sources confirm Ziegler has asked for a massive payout. One source said $2 million to go away. Officials within the state party confirmed emissaries for Ziegler approached the party on his behalf. Got some thinking to do. But, Rick Scott wants him to go away. Rick Scott's worth almost $1 billion. I mean, his hospital company was convicted of the largest, it was a multi-billion-dollar fraud against Medicare, the largest Medicare fraud in the history of the United States. That was Rick Scott's company when he was CEO. And he walked away with, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so, he could give Christian Ziegler $2 million and wouldn't even notice it. Maybe that's how it'll shake out. I don't know. We'll see. Meanwhile, New York State is on the verge of making a decision, at least the Democrats in New York State, if they don't blow it, which is, which is a huge caveat because Democrats in New York State are really good at blowing it. But if they don't, they have an opportunity now to basically gerrymander New York in a way that could bump 3, 4, 5 Republicans out of office, out of the House of Representatives, replace them with Democrats. And this is what North Carolina just did. North Carolina had a 7-7 split. They gerrymandered the state, and now it's 11-3. 11 Republicans to 3 Democrats instead of 7 of each. So North Carolina just picked up, 4 Republican seats in the House of Representatives. New York State could pick up 4 Democratic seats in the House of Representatives by doing the same thing. The only problem is that New York State law says you may not gerrymander for partisan purposes. And federal law says you can't do it for racial purposes. So they're going to have to come up with another excuse. And it's going to have to get past the courts. So I'm not holding my breath on this, but New York State could change Congress using the Republican Party's own tricks. Finally, our geeky science of the day. I published a piece on Monday over at hunterinAfarmersworld.com and hunterinAfarmersworld.com. And it starts with a poem by Robert Service from 1907. Most people don't remember Robert Service. He was a big deal when I was a little kid. I think he was probably still alive at the time. But anyhow, the book was written. It was called "The Men Who Don't Fit In," and like I said, he wrote it in 1907. He writes, "There's a race of men that don't fit in, a race that can't sit still. So they break the hearts of kith and kin, and they roam the world at will. They range the field, and they rove the flood, and they climb the mountain's crest. Theirs is the curse of the gypsy blood, and they don't know how to rest. If they just went straight, they might go far. They are strong and brave and true, but they're always tired of the things that are. They want the strange and new. They say, could I find my proper groove, what a deep mark I would make. So they chop and change, and each fresh move is only a fresh mistake. And each forgets as he strips and runs, what a brilliant, fitful pace. It's the steady, quiet, plodding ones who win in the lifelong race. And each forgets that his youth has fled, forgets that his prime is past, till he stands one day with a hope that's dead in the glare of the truth at last. He has failed, he has failed, he has missed his chance. He has done things just by half. Life's been a jolly good joke on him, and now is the time to laugh. Ha ha, he is one of the legion lost. He was never meant to win. He's a rolling stone, and it's bred in the bone. He's the man who won't fit in. And it's the perfect description of attention deficit disorder. I mean, just the entire poem. So anyhow, I opened this article, Why Hunters in a Farmer's World, with that poem by Robert Service, and noted that since we started this website about 2 months ago, Louise and I started it, hunterindafarmersworld.com, we've gotten a bunch of inquiries about, my thoughts on ADHD. I started writing about this in the 1980s. And, am I opposed to medication? Do I think people should seek therapy? Is ADHD a fad? Why do we need a hunter-farmer model when the disease model of modern medicine seems to work just fine? And all these kind of things. And so basically what I'm saying is, I'm fine with medication. I mean, there's a spectrum of severity for ADHD. I think that the hunter-farmer model, that people with ADHD are people who are carrying the genes of the hunters in our history as opposed to the farmers in our history, is still not just a good metaphor, but I think increasingly we are finding that there is actual science associated with it. And I lay out in the article exactly, what and why and how, and how I think that this is, for some people, I absolutely acknowledge ADHD is a disability. It has, just as bad as limping, or particularly if you want to try to be an athlete, or not being able to see well, if you lived in a society where you couldn't easily get glasses. I get it. It's a challenge for people. It's been a challenge for me my whole life. That said, I think that it is also a collection of characteristics and strengths and traits that are in many ways a gift, as well as a curse. I would say the same of, by the way, the other side of being an extreme farmer, of being, a bookkeeper type, a person who just loves numbers and detail. And people say, oh, he's boring, I get it. There's this spectrum, and there's good and bad across it. But I really think that our impulse to pathologize everything in this society, to turn everything into a disease, to make everything something that you have to go to a medical professional for, and that you need to seek therapy or drugs for, I think is going to be a dangerous impulse when it's overdone. And so anyway, like I said, I've written 7 books on the topic, and we're publishing this newsletter now. You can find it over at hunterindafarmersworld.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Talk media for the rest of us. I'll be back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. Bob in Ontario, California. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind today?
Oh, yes. We hear so much about Hunter Biden lately. My question is, Jared Kushner was made peace envoy to the Middle East. He's had talks with UAE and the Saudi Arabians. Okay? Now, the question is, what did Jared Kushner recommend to Donald Trump about the blockade of Qatar. Okay?
He supported it.
And
the blockade was not lifted until Qatar's sovereign wealth fund, a company that was heavily invested into by their sovereign wealth fund, bailed out his $1 billion bad investment at 666 Fifth Avenue.
Yep, you got it. That's right. Now, why aren't they investigating Jared Kushner for this sleazy deal that appears, I'm not saying, it has to be investigated.
Yeah. It
More
should
than
be.
the $2 billion.
It should be. This is a question to put to Chuck Schumer. Yeah, because the Senate, Democrats control the Senate. They could be having these kinds of investigations, but they're choosing not to. And I think I think it's a huge mistake. I think they really should be revealing to the American people the breadth and depth of the criminality of the Trump family. These are professional grifters, from Trump's grandfather through his father through his kids. They're professional grifters. They're hustlers.
You got that right.
Okay, Bob. Thanks for the call. Tony in Long Island, New York. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
Good. What's up?
I was curious. This is more of a statement. I'm sure you heard about Mehdi Hassan and how MSNBC decided to can his show.
Yeah,
he was probably the
I
last
was very disappointed in
that they did
in that decision.
I was extremely disappointed. You know what got me is you have people like Rachel Maddow, who was built up by Keith Olbermann. She gets $31 million a year to show up one day a week. You get Chris Hayes 4 days a week. He's getting like $15 million. And if you got the two or the three of those people who would stand up and say, "Listen, don't fire this guy," they would actually hold on to him, or give him a nighttime spot.
I mean,
where he could
what we don't know is what was really going on in the background. I mean, I've been inside that industry. In fact, there was a moment in time where I'm forgetting his name now. The head of programming over there at MSNBC had brought me and Ed Schultz in for interviews. And basically,
Ed Schultz, they got rid of him too. Yeah.
Well, but they picked Ed because it was Phil Griffin because basically I was like, I will not sign a contract that says I don't have editorial control over my own show. And
Phil Griffin, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there may be a backstory there that you don't know about. It could be that the ratings sucked. I don't know. I doubt it though. It certainly looks to me like Mehdi Hassan was just a little too edgy for MSNBC, and I think that's unfortunate. I thought he brought a really important perspective and an absolute brilliant mind to his program.
Oh, he put people on the spot. He actually grilled me, and he was
the BBC has an incredible show called Hard Talk. If you've never watched it, it's really worth going out of your way to watch. And Mehdi Hassan could do that show. I mean, there's very few people who have the skill set and the intellect to do a show like that. And we need something like that in America. Tony, thank you for the call. Yeah, I just don't know what happened there. I have no inside, nobody on the inside at MSNBC is talking to me. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. So MAGA Mike and the Republicans want a religious test for people running for public office. They want to know that you are sufficiently Christian to be worthy of being elected. Right. MAGA Mike is one of these 7 mountain evangelicals. There are 7 domains where these dominionists believe that we need to have religion completely take them over. Education, religion, family, business, government and military, arts and entertainment, and the media. Seriously. This is not what Jesus was preaching when he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God's. This is the opposite, in fact, of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite of Matthew 25, where Jesus said the only way to get to heaven is by feeding the hungry, healing the sick, helping the poor. This is counter-Christian, anti-Christian, in fact. In fact, I think you could say it is the Antichrist's work. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. It's 20 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls. Hey, what's on your mind today? Charles in Miami. Hey, Charles, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Tom?
Good. What's up? What's on your mind, Charles?
All right. First of all, Nikki Haley, I don't fear her. Neither does Biden. I'll tell you why. She had two chances. She had either a chance to go ahead and after January 6th, she had a chance to convene the cabinet and do an Article 25, I think it is.
I don't think she was in the cabinet. She was our ambassador to the United Nations. That's not a cabinet position.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, or she could have resigned as well, and she didn't do that.
Yeah, she could have.
And she has not denounced him one time on this campaign, on this,
Yep.
You know,
she's afraid to offend the
right now.
base.
Right, exactly. And as far as Mike Johnson is concerned, is he crazy? Is he saying that Vladimir Zelensky should come here and tell him all the plans that Ukraine has for defeating Russia? And basically, they're doing the same thing Trump did. They got him impeached. They're holding back aid right now from Ukraine.
I know.
So
I know it's a crime.
I think it is, and I think if Mike Johnson is really in touch with God, he doesn't need an app. He doesn't need to contact his son. He can just pray on his hands and knees and say, God, I'm sorry for what I did.
Yeah.
Help me, please. If yeah. But the reason why I called is simply, I was always thinking we have not gotten the full and complete Mueller report, and this has got. Listen, I think we have to really fight for it right now because we have a Democrat in the White House that can release this information. And peel back some of the redactions. I've said it over the years. I'm sick of all of this, secret stuff and right to know. This is the American public.
So you're talking, Charles, do I understand that you're talking about now the Mueller report, right? Going back.
Right, because I'm talking about Russia having a part to play in stealing this election for Trump, whether or not they moved some votes in the voter machine.
Yep.
And when they got in there and they stole this information from Hillary Clinton, and we also know they went through the GOP and stole their information. We've always thought that if they were after Hillary, what if they were after the Republicans? What if they have so much dirt on the Republicans that, we're totally missing the point? They're blackmailing them or whatever, or just simply put, you have one dictatorship meeting with an American dictatorship, which is the Republican Party, and they work with each other to make sure they all stay in office.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Yeah. And I feel like the Mueller report, peel back the layers. Tell us the truth.
Yeah.
It's just like the Kennedy assassination. What is the holdup now? What is the holdup? Because I think a lot of people might end up going to jail.
Yep. Yeah, 24, as I recall, people were indicted as a result of the Mueller investigation. I think, 18, 19 of them were Russians, and, they're kind of beyond the reach. GRU
officers.
Yeah, and he identified 10 and wrote them down, 10 specific examples of obstruction of justice where Donald Trump or members of his family intentionally obstructed the FBI's investigation into the Russian involvement in the 2016 election. And so to this day, we don't have the answer to those 10 major questions that Mueller was asking, but we do know that the Trump family intervened in a way that Robert Mueller claimed was prosecutable obstruction of justice. And yet there has been no follow-up by Congress on this. There has been no follow-up, to the best of my knowledge, by the Department of Justice on this. Maybe Jack Smith is intending to pull one of these things out of his back pocket in one of his court things, but it doesn't look like it because he's just recently had to lay out the rationales that he's going to use for his prosecutions, and none of it has included Russian involvement in the election in 2016. I think this is a big deal, Charles. I'm completely with you. Charles, I need to move along, but thank you for the call. That was a good one. Mark in Salem, Oregon. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
Thanks for taking my call. Love your show.
Thank you.
Listen as often as I possibly can. I called a couple weeks ago regarding the topic of dominionism. I just want to say thank you very much for finally addressing this. I think this was a big topic back in the 80s when it first came about.
Yep.
The whole premise behind eschatology and dominionism was generated back when the Republican Party was looking for a new
For an issue,
home.
yeah, in 1980. Well, you also had Hal Lindsey and Late Great Planet Earth and all that stuff, you know.
Yep.
In the 70s.
Hey, I think the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 migrated into being Trump's big calling cry, and I don't think it's going to be just on a federal level. I think it's going to fall down to these states that are primarily red.
They're already doing that. You've got red states that are running fascist, nakedly fascist agendas. You know, Ron DeSantis has got his own private army now.
Right.
I mean, you know, this is crazy stuff, but he's done it. He's created now a separate police force to just go after black people for voting. He's outlawed the use of the word gay in the public schools. It's like, you know, yeah, fascism is here. It's you know, and he's running for president based on it, which is the most insane part of it. Mark, thanks for the call. What are we going to do with this? I mean, you know, how do we stop this? How do we wake people up? How do we bring back some sense of normalcy to America? If you have thoughts on that or ideas, I'd love to hear them. I'll be right back with more of your calls after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with your calls. Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it. To fund this network all the way, you know, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, you know, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, you know, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election. Really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. Your $50 becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. As you know, your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag, $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug, $120 gift, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, or my book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket, and with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's the general on there.
I'll put it on. Yes, sir. Ready?
Hello? General, how are you? Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, that public one the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from Turkey. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, Well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll be find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba is concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yeah.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off by far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our words, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very, I think, conciliatory move he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is that's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests if they engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive acts and so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway, so that I think this is important for the time being, because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that, as we all know, they just probe, and their word's unreliable, so we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side, and somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount. From international trade policy to immigration policy to housing, we've got all kinds of topics. The wars between Republicans and Democrats, the Republican efforts to induce fascism in the United States. Of opinions will be found over at HartmannReport.com. From Los Angeles to Columbia, South Carolina, from Birmingham, Alabama to Baltimore, universal basic income programs are chalking up proof after proof of their viability. Basically just giving people, low-income people, poor people, somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a month, no strings attached, is lifting people out of poverty, getting them back on track, getting them into solid middle-class jobs, helping their children tremendously. This works. Now, we don't have to do UBI in the United States. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care program. Health expenses are whacking a lot of low-income people. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have free college education. Education expenses are whacking people. There's a lot we could do. We can subsidize housing. We can subsidize food. We do that with food stamps. We could expand it. There's a lot we could do to benefit from this. There's a whole report about that over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 35 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls. What's on your mind today? Kevin in Omaha, Nebraska. Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I was watching my local news the other day, and they were running a story on Biden. I think it had something to do with Ukraine or something. But there was a video in the background. You know, they were playing a video of him coming down the steps of the Marine One, which I guess they call Air Force One, anytime the president's on it, and it was obviously doctored.
Marine One is the helicopter. Air Force One is the plane. So you're talking about he was coming down the steps of the plane?
No, of the helicopter.
Okay.
And it was slowed down to you could tell it was doctored because the two pilots were visible through the window, and even they were slowed down.
Right.
And it made him look like he was about 120 years old.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, isn't deep fakes, or I guess this one's considered a shallow fake, like the one they did of Nancy Pelosi a few years ago, where they slowed her down so it looked like she was drunk.
Yeah.
Well, that's like an internet thing, but seeing it on your local news affiliate is a little shocking.
Did you call
I would
the
think
station?
It's some kind of they said they would never knowingly do that.
Your television stations, what you should ask them then is where do you keep your public files? Radio and television stations are required to keep something called public files, which is basically a drawer in a filing cabinet. And anytime any member of the public complains about the programming, it has to go into the public file. And that public file is then pulled out and read by the Federal Communications Commission every year or every 2 years when their license is up for renewal. And complaints from the public can force them to have to come to the FCC with an explanation. So, ask them, where are your public files? And if I want to write a complaint to be inserted in your public file, what's the process? And they have to tell you.
Okay, great.
Because if you feel that your local station is playing dirty pool, now it is possible that Joe Biden was just going really slow. He's got pretty bad arthritis in his spine.
This was ridiculously slow.
Yeah,
I've seen him come down the steps quite a few times, and he's careful.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are. But this was definitely a doctored video. I'm trying to find the original that they started with, so I could,
Well, you could just, document the day and the time and the specifics of your complaint and take it to them and say, I want this put in the public file.
Okay.
Yeah, and you might want to just look up public files for radio and TV stations, just Google that, because the FCC may have a process that I'm unaware of. I've worked at radio and TV stations where I know that people have come in and wanted to see the public files. In fact, one radio station actually got sued because somebody had put into the public file that there was obscenity on the air. There, in fact, was. The station hadn't apologized. They hadn't cleaned it up. And then this right-wing group came in and actually sued the station. It was one of our old Air America affiliates. And they lost the suit. The FCC renewed their license, and that was the end of that. But it was a huge hassle. It was a huge pain in the ass. And so stations generally try to avoid that. So just FYI.
Well, I would love to be a huge pain in the ass to the station. They do things like they did an interview with a biker that was delivering toys for tots kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the huge, the American flag that's black with the blue stripe running through it.
Right, the thin blue line flag, they call it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, which I find personally offensive.
Yeah.
I think it's a desecration of the flag.
Yeah.
But they were just, it took up half the screen for about a 30-second segment.
Yeah.
Like it was completely normal. This flag was completely normal.
Right,
and
it's not. Yeah, in fact,
I did complain about that, but I don't think that's an FCC violation. But that's just...
No, it's not.
It's great communication, so you know where they're coming from.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, well, just let them know. Kevin, thank you for the call. Freddie in Shreveport, Louisiana. Hey, Freddie, what's on your mind today? Second call from Shreveport today. Been down there.
Well, I was just calling. This is Freddie. I was just calling in response to Jeff's call concerning the election of the sheriff.
Right.
There is a great amount of outrage because we understand that Jim Crow is alive and well here in the South.
Yeah.
And it's just like Jeff said, it's one vote victory, and the challenger decided he wanted a recount. Well, they did, just like Jeff said, they did a recount, and Whitehorn, who was the black sheriff, still won.
Right.
And
they apparently don't want a black sheriff, the local Republican power structure.
Yes, but he has appealed to the Supreme Court. He's going through the court system, and we are very, very concerned. We're looking at it, and I wish I knew how to get in contact with, some of the big news places. It was aired on our local station here last night. They did some kind of, forum on it.
Right.
And so it's not like it's...
Freddie, do you participate in Facebook, Twitter, any of the social media platforms?
I'm sorry, ask me again.
Do you participate in Facebook or Twitter? Do you have accounts?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, if you know anybody who does, that's one way to get to the media. Most of your media figures, your reporters, and most of the networks have a presence on both Facebook and Twitter, and you can just go in and speak directly to them. It's not everybody always reads their own stuff, but a lot do, an awful lot do.
Well, now it was picked up by the Guardian and aired on CNN by one of the hosts.
Right. Well, that's good. I would ping the people at MSNBC about it. And I would in particular reach out to Joy Reid's show, because this seems like something that's just tailor-made for her.
And you can do that on Twitter? You
can do that on Twitter and Facebook, yeah.
Okay, because I'm 77 years old, lived in Shreveport for 50-some years, and never heard of a recount. I never heard of a re-election in my life.
Right, after a successful recount. Neither have I, Freddie, anywhere in the country. So, yeah, you've got every reason to be outraged. Freddie, thanks for the call. I'm sorry.
And this was a recount.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. It's outrageous. Freddie, thank you for the call, and thanks for validating Jeff's earlier caller. Thank you. Burby in Chicago. Hey, Burby, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Love your show. First-time caller.
Thank you.
I just want to say, thank you, that we Americans, we must get outraged and angry to the point that we take to the streets, boycott businesses that are in bed with Republicans. What we're doing is waiting to see what they're going to do, then we'll react. We need to do something more than wait to see what they're going to do. We're the ones following the rules of the law. We don't realize that there will be no rules and law or constitution once these people get power again.
That's right.
These people, Republicans.
That's what they're saying. So, Burby, instead of working on boycotts and things that can be dicey and difficult and in some cases don't even get noticed, only a little more than half of Americans who are qualified, who are eligible to vote, even register to vote. And of the people who are registered to vote, only about half of them actually vote. I may be slightly exaggerating those numbers, but it's basically our primary elections are typically decided by fewer than 10% of the people, and our national elections are decided by roughly half of the people who are actually eligible. So it seems to me that if you're concerned about all these things, and I share your concern, that the single most effective thing you can do right now and between now and November of next year is to help everybody make sure that they are registered to vote. And I mean, you live in Illinois, they're not going to be purging your vote, but if you have friends who live in red states, make sure that every month they are double checking their voter registration, because the the secretaries of state in these red states, these Republican secretaries of state, are aggressively purging people from the voting rolls. I mean, they purged 20 million people off the voting rolls in the 2 years leading up to the 2020 election. They are aggressively doing that. So that's the big work we have, Burby, in my opinion.
I agree. And why I think since they're doing that and it's okay for them to do it, then the Democrats need to purge the Republicans. off the votes.
Well, they're not willing to do
What's
that.
good for the goose is good for the gander.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I'm feeling that way, frankly, about New York and gerrymandering.
Exactly.
But with regard to the purges, I think what we need to do is get the For the People Act passed, and so these absurd decisions by just every single one of them by 5 or 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court, none of them have been bipartisan decisions to make it harder for Americans to vote, all that kind of stuff, so that we can overturn those things. Burby, thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It is 46 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. And welcome back. Barb in Farnham, Virginia. Hey, Bob. Bob. Hey, Bob. What's on your mind today?
Happy holidays. 20-year listener, occasional caller. I wanted to acknowledge and applaud your professionalism in broadcasting. I didn't hear a smirk out of you when you talked about the head of the Florida Republican Party, Ladies of Liberty lover boy, and you never even focused on the fact that his first name is Christian.
Yeah, well, that's cheap shot stuff, number one. And number two, I am very much of the opinion that among consenting adults, sexual behavior is something that I'm not going to jump in and criticize.
Absolutely. It just, the irony was just too much to not notice.
I get it. So
have a great show.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bob. Nice to hear from you. Carol in Monessen, Pennsylvania. Hey, Carol, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. What's on my mind is the aid to Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned about the Republicans' idea that it's not a good idea to aid Ukraine, when in fact, as far as I can recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've always thought of Ukraine as the breadbasket of both Russia and the world.
It is. They produce
and here
10%
we have
of the world's
a
wheat.
nutcase. Pardon?
They produce 10% of the world's wheat.
Oh, is it only 10%?
That's a hell of a lot for the whole planet.
Well, that's true. And how can Putin be so insane as to be throwing bombs and missiles at the breadbasket of Europe and the world?
Yeah. Well, he's a psychopath. Putin is a criminal psychopath, as is Trump.
I know that. Is there any way to stop it? I mean, anything we can do to get aid to them.
We all, I don't know who represents you in Pennsylvania. I know you have 2 Democratic senators. I don't know who's in your House.
I've called both of them. I've called both of them and told them that, but they agreed, of course.
Right. And whoever represents you in the House, you should call that person as well. But also reach out to your friends, Facebook acquaintances, neighbors, relatives, whatever, in red states, who have Republicans representing them in Congress, and share your outrage with them and try to get them to call their members. Just share that number, 202-224-3121. Share that number far and wide. We need to be raising hell. I agree with you, Carol. I think it's...
actually, I do that. In fact, I have a Facebook page, and every day I do a political column. And sometimes I show your show on that page.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's great.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what we the conversation I just had with Burby, I think was her name.
Yes.
This work is going to have to be. We have this little window, this 12-month window roughly, or 11-month window, when we can save America using the political process. And if we lose after that, then we've got to have a completely different conversation. But for the moment, we have this political system. We can operate within it. There's actually some fairly good signs that Republicans are shooting themselves in their foot, with their embrace of fascism and dictatorship and anti-abortion rhetoric.
Tom.
Yes, Carol.
Before I go, can I give a shout out to that wonderful woman that called you I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. Her name, I believe, is Naomi, and she's a preacher somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say I really enjoyed her call.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, thank you. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio and tag You're It. When I was a little kid, my grandmother had a piano and I loved to play it. I was incompetent, but I was figuring out all kinds of stuff. And then I kind of got away from it and, went to school and things got busy and just lost track of it. Well, now there's this fascinating new study out of the University of Geneva, Switzerland, that is making me think maybe I should go back and learn the piano. What they found was that they took a group of 132 healthy older adults, retired, 62 to 78 years old. Half of them learned the piano, half of them took music classes without learning the piano. And what they found was that those who learned the piano actually had the strongest increase in their memory, in their mental competence, their mental faculties. Those who took the music classes also did well, but learning the piano was a huge step. So check it out. There's a whole long rant about this over at hartmanreport.com. Check it out. 52 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here. Steve in St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Love your show.
Thank you.
When I was in civics class in 1975, one of the first things the teacher told us was, no one's above the law. Now, that's what I was taught in 8th grade. And I can't understand why this would have to go to the Supreme Court when, Trump did say something that was correct. You can't sit and indict a sitting president. That is true.
Well, actually, you can legally. It's just that the Justice Department's policy has been not to do so. And that policy was written first by a lawyer for Richard Nixon when he was being investigated, and then second for a lawyer by Bill Clinton when he was being investigated. So I think that policy needs to be revisited, too. But that's a whole other conversation.
Well, I believe that you can't, yes, Congress and the Senate can impeach him and throw him out that way. But as far as a criminal crime, that happens when he is no longer a sitting president. So whatever he did as a criminal while he was in office, that all stands once he becomes a regular citizen. But that's not what I was wanting to tell you. We are sitting on over $306 billion in federally seized assets from Russia and Iran. I don't know why the president doesn't use that money right there for Ukraine and let the House go ahead and do their thing for Israel, and the president can sidestep the circus.
That's one possibility. There's a couple of Plan Bs that are possibilities, Steve. That's one. Another is for him to do what Donald Trump did when he took $5 million out of the Pentagon budget for rebuilding soldiers' housing and repurposed it for the wall down on the coast, on the border with Mexico.
Right.
There are other possibilities as well that I've read in the press that might be a little more far-fetched, but may well be legal.
Well,
I just don't think
that what you said, that is kind of a dicey thing. What you said.
Yeah,
I think mine is more plausible because there's no strings attached to it.
I agree with you.
And besides,
I agree with you.
the people that own that money, and besides the people who own that money, Russia's the one that's caused the Ukrainian incident. Iran is the one that caused Israeli incident when they funneled money to Hamas in order to do this.
No, I'm with you, and what I'm believing or guessing strongly is that the Biden administration is not going to show their hand. They're not going to tell anybody what their Plan B is, and their Plan A is going to be to have Congress appropriate the money, and they're going to push that right up until the end of the year. And then if Congress hasn't appropriated the money after the end of the year, right at the beginning of next year, I think you're going to see some action. We'll see. John in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hey, John, I have less than a minute. I'm sorry. You got a quick one?
A real quick one. Hey,
trying to impeach Biden. Got it. If he done something criminal,
Biden? Has he done something criminal?
long game.
According to the Republicans, they have not yet found any evidence of his having committed any crimes.
No, hold on. I'm not saying he has. I'm just saying if a president, I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, does something criminal, lock them up. What I'm saying is, what's their long game? Are they trying to give us the first black female president? Personally, I would love it. Personally, if they made it to where we can't vote for Biden and she runs, I would vote for her.
It may well be that they think it would be easier to beat Kamala Harris than Joe Biden, and I think they would be right in that assessment. So,
Okay.
yeah, that may be their long game, John. I'm not quite as enthusiastic about it as you are, but I get what you're saying. I totally get it. Thanks a lot for the call, John. And thank you for being with us today, for listening to this program, watching our program, participating with our program, all our callers and whatnot. Thank you. Just don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us to participate, and that includes you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the people around you. We'll catch up with you on the other side.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Well, we just have 2 days left, today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. That's it. To fund this network all the way, into next spring. I mean, we've got a big lift here, and I realize, it's the holiday season and all that kind of thing, and there's, lots of demands for our money and a lot of political demands. We're heading into a major election, which is going to make it really hard to raise funds next year. So please, we're behind right now, not terribly, but we're behind right now, and we really need your help. So please call 877-378-8669. And here's the really great news. The frontline funders stepped up because we're a little behind. They said, okay, if anybody makes a donation today, Thursday, they will triple it. $50 becomes $150, or they'll match it twice. Your $50 becomes $150. Your $200 becomes, $600. Your $10 becomes $30. That's a big deal. And, of course, there's all the premiums. So the $20 gift, the bumper sticker, the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker with a $50 gift, your choice of the keychain or the tote bag, the new really cool winter tote bag, $75 gift, the Free Speech TV mug, $120 gift, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, or The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, $200 gift, the Free Speech TV blanket, and with a $1,000 gift, all 9 books so far published and autographed by the author in the Thom Hartmann Hidden History series. So while you're calling 877-378-8669, or while you're going to freespeech.org and putting in your contribution, please do it now. Here's a clip of during the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy, called former President Dwight Eisenhower for his thoughts. It's fascinating.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Oh, is the general on there?
I'll put it on. Yes, sir. Ready?
Hello? General, how are you? Oh, fine. General, I just wanted to bring you up to date on this matter because I know of your concern about it. We got, Friday night, got a message from Khrushchev, which said that he would withdraw these missiles and technicians and so on, providing we did not plan to invade Cuba. We then got a message, that public one, the next morning, in which he said he would do that if we withdrew our missiles from Turkey. We then, as you know, issued a statement that we couldn't get into that deal. So we then got this message this morning. So we now have to wait to see how it unfolds, and there's a good deal of complexities to it. If the withdrawal of these missiles, technicians, and the cessation of subversive activity by them, well, we just have to set up satisfactory procedures to determine whether these actions will be carried out. So I would think that if we can do that, we'll be find our interests advanced, even though it may be only one more chapter in a rather long story as far as Cuba's concerned.
Of course, but Mr. President, does he put any conditions in whatsoever in that?
No, except that we're not going to invade Cuba.
Yeah.
That's the only one we've got now. But we don't plan to invade Cuba under these conditions anyway.
No.
So if we can get them out, we're better off by far.
That's correct. I quite agree. I just wondered whether he was trying to, knowing we would keep our word, whether he would try to engage us in any kind of statements or commitments that would finally one day could be very embarrassing. For instance, suppose they start to bombard Guantanamo.
Right.
What I'm getting at, I quite agree this is a very, might say, conciliatory move he's made.
Right.
Provided that he doesn't say that.
Oh, well, I agree. Oh, yeah, that's right. I think what we've got to do is that's why I don't think the Cuban story can be over yet. I think we will retain sufficient freedom to protect our interests if they engage in subversion, if they attempt to do any aggressive action, so on, then all bets are off. In addition, my guess is that by the end of next month we're going to be toe-to-toe in Berlin anyway, so that I think this is important for the time being, because it requires quite a step down for Khrushchev. On the other hand, I think that, as we all know, they just probe, and their word's unreliable, so we just have to stay busy on it.
Yeah, so there you have a president who is not afraid to take on the Russians. Donald Trump is terrified of Vladimir Putin. You could see it on his face in Helsinki when they stood side by side, and somebody asked, did Putin mess with the election? And Trump said, well, he said he didn't. I believe him. And you know, what about American intelligence? Oh, I'm believing Russian intelligence over. Yeah, I mean, it's just we have had some really good presidents. He was one of the better ones. Anyway, to continue conversations like that on this network is going to require your help. We need your help now. 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. And please consider a regular monthly contribution of any amount.